All right, we are getting to the end of the NASCAR season here. Only a few races left in each of the series, except for the Truck Series. They only got two left. They got this Homestead race, and then they're going straight to Phoenix after this. But we're gonna do a double video here. So we got a NASCAR doubleheader. So first part of the video, I'm gonna cover the Truck Series. Second part of the video, I'm gonna cover the Xfinity Series. So depending on what time you're watching this or what contest you're playing, feel free to just skip ahead to get to the actual slate that you are interested in. And as always, I'm going to post both these sheets up on Twitter. It's at FastCarsFM. I highly doubt anyone's new here at this point, but if you are, that's where we post all these sheets so you can have access to them. We'll answer questions there. I also like to try to do a little bit of a quicker, more in-depth, breakdown on YouTube as well. So if you're coming from Twitter, hey, give us a like, comment, subscribe. That always helps us out. So, all right, let's talk about the Truck Series first. We got top range here, Majeski, Heim, Smith, Hocevar, and Eckes. Majeski and Heim are going to be medium interest for me based off of practice times, qualifying speed that I saw. I really like Zane Smith, Hocevar, Eckes, and then Sanchez as my potential lap leaders today. So probably want at least, maybe not X's as much, but I would say Smith, Hocevar, and Sanchez, I think, have a good chance of leading laps, just looking at practice times. So I like to have at least one of those drivers in my lineup, potentially two. I don't mind Majeski. I don't mind Heim. Majeski, I think, might be a little bit lower owned. Pretty quick single lap time, good qualifying time, but then he kind of fell off a little bit looking at the lap averages. So that potentially might keep his ownership down. And he's also 11 grand. That might keep his ownership down. Corey Heim's pretty consistent, reliable, most likely is going to finish inside the top 10. I just don't know based off of the practice times if he'll have the truck to get out there and lead laps. Feel more confident with Smith and Hocevar. It's basically a coin flip between Hocevar and Sanchez as far as who that early lap leader is going to be. They start right next to each other. Their practice times are basically identical. Sanchez has a little bit of an advantage, I'd say, just because he gets to control the restart and pick what line he's in, but it's pretty similar. I mean, Sanchez gives you a little bit of price savings, but Hocevar is in the playoffs, too. So that's, you always got to give a little bit of a boost to the playoff drivers. Eckes has been pretty good. Don't know how high his ownerships could be. He gives you a little bit of place differential upside there. So I like playing one of Hocevar or Sanchez, maybe pairing him with an Eckes or Smith, for example. Those are the types of builds that I am building, at least up top. I also like Ben Rhodes. Ben Rhodes is going to be a little bit more of a place differential upside play. Like Majeski, he had another fast single lap practice time, but when we get a little bit deeper in the run, his truck was falling off. And unlike Majeski, for when it came to qualifying, Rhodes did not qualify nearly as well as Majeski did there. So I like Rhodes mainly just as a place differential option. I think Enfinger's fine as a contrarian lap leader. I have more confidence in Hocevar, Sanchez, and Smith. So those are going to be who I'm really targeting. From there, let's go to Taylor Gray, 9 grand, starting 12th. Not a ton of upside in my opinion. I'm not going to have too much of him. Stuart Friesen, probably going to be a lower owned tournament option, but decent practice time. So they were inside the top 10. So, he could be a nice tournament option there. Trevor Baynes could be high for me. Basically the same reason as Ben Rhodes. Gives you a lot of place differential upside. Now, the concern is this truck did have some issues, but luckily it is not a one-day show for the Truck Series, so they should be able to get it fixed come race day. And starting this deep in the field, they should be able to move forward rather easily. Matt Crafton, I don't want to say he's a trap play by any means. He also gives you some place differential upside. Looking at practice times, I don't know how far forward he can really move up. My fear is if he starts 22nd and finishes like 16th or 17th or something. The equipment is there. It's just Crafton just has been having a little bit of an off year. Purdy, basically Purdy and Carruth are identical plays. I'd probably give a little bit nudge to Purdy just because he's in that KBM equipment. Both of them had decent practice times. Look like they're going to be kind of around that 12th to 10th range, is probably their ceiling. But you never know, it's the Truck Series and crazy things happen. And it's, maybe they can take advantage of that and get a good finish at the end. So I don't mind either of those options for tournament plays. would take a little bit of risk per se. I don't know if it's really risky, but I'm very interested in Bailey Curry. Really like his price tag there. Gives you some place differential upside. I don't really know how much ownership he's going to have. Was pretty fast in practice, so I kind of like that. And then Marco Andretti, um, starts 27th. He got better as the laps were clicking off, looking like he was getting more comfortable and confident in the truck there. But I just, again, kind of the same argument with Crafton. Yeah, he starts deep, but I don't realistically know how high up he can really move. I'm also not interested in the other Gray brother starting 6th. I think he just starts a little bit too far forward for me. Jake Garcia, he's shown that he can run inside the top 10. He's kind of a similar play to, Purdy and Carruth. The nice thing about Garcia and Ankrum, I'll maybe throw in there to a lesser extent, but they're a lot cheaper than Purdy and Carruth, and they basically start right next to each other with pretty similar upside. So, I don't mind going there, especially if you need some price savings. Dean Thompson's going to be another driver I'm going to take a risk on. And again, it's solely just based off of his price and, how he was running in practice. I don't think he's a good cash game plays by any means, but if you're playing a tournament, you want to take a little bit of a risk. I don't know how many people are really going to play him starting 5th. And, based off everything I saw in practice and being able to back it up in qualifying, I don't mind plugging him into a handful of lines. I don't think you should go crazy, but I'm going to have a little bit more Dean Thompson than I normally do. Jack Wood starts 11th. It's just hard to see him, finishing much higher than where he starts. Colby Howard, another guy I'm going to kind of, try to be a little bit more aggressive over the field on. Doesn't always pan out the best. He usually does this where he shows decent times in practice, and then come the race, it's just something usually happens to him. But, maybe that keeps ownership off of him starting 24th. I think he still gives you some upside there. Daniel Dye probably starts and finishes around where he finishes, or what I mean. Same with Haley Deegan there. Just seen her she has the equipment, just the finishes haven't been there. She's gonna probably need some luck to go her way for her to have a clean race and get to the end. And then once you get below there isn't really anyone I feel too strongly about. I would say, you're gonna have to come down here for some price savings. Jonathan Schaefer is probably my favorite just because of where he starts and his practice times. I don't feel great about it. He's also in a decent truck. If you can't afford it or need another one, I would say maybe Spencer Boyd, just because of his experience and also where he starts. But I mean, all these plays are relatively similar, to one another. I'd say the oddball is kind of Brad Perez there, starting 18th. Really good qualifying effort. His practice times didn't necessarily match his speed. But yeah, so that's basically the truck series. Really high on Smith, Hocevar, and Sanchez as my lap leaders. Trying to get to Eckes, Rhodes, Bain, Curry, Howard as some place differential plays. And then we kind of mentioned a couple, tournament options there. So yeah, that's the truck series slate. That one kicks off at 12 o'clock Eastern time. Hopefully that one goes well for us. And then if it does, we will, or if it doesn't, either way, we're going to shift gears and go to the Xfinity series, which is a little bit longer. I know the truck series race is 134 laps. I think the Xfinity series is 200 laps. So it's a little bit longer. Really like Miami Homestead. I really wish the championship race was still here instead of Phoenix, but maybe they'll switch it back someday. So, all right, we got John Hunter Nemechek, Cole Custer, Allgaier, Austin Hill, Sam Mayer, and Josh Berry up here. Favorite play is going to be John Hunter Nemechek. He's just been an absolute tear on the intermediate tracks this year. Looks to be a contender again for this race. Draftkings obviously thinks he's going to be a contender with a $500 price, bump from the next guy. Good chance of being a lap leader. The only thing going against John Hunter Nemechek is how fast Cole Custer was. Cole Custer beat John Hunter Nemechek in practice, and he also beat him in qualifying. So I still think John Hunter Nemechek is going to run extremely fast. Probably is going to get out front, lead you laps. You should be able to pick up fast laps. The only thing is, can Cole Custer, stay in front of John Hunter Nemechek? I don't know, the ownership difference between the two. Cole Custer doesn't have nearly as good of a driver rating on the intermediate tracks like John Hunter Nemechek does. So if I only had to pick one, I'm going to go John Hunter Nemechek every single day. But I still like Cole Custer a lot too. And I'm going to have, lines with both of them. Allgaier, I'm going to be medium. I just, the speed that Nemechek and Custer showed, I just have a hard time seeing Allgaier get out front, especially with Austin Hill right behind him too. He was really fast in practice. Allgaier has the second best driver rating, only behind John Hunter Nemechek on these intermediate tracks. So, the track history says, hey, Allgaier is going to be good. Don't worry about his practice times. It's not like his practice times were bad. It's just, comparing up to Nemechek, Custer, and Hill, these are the three cars I think you really want to focus on. So still going to have some Allgaier, but probably a little bit lower than maybe some others. Going to have a lot of Austin Hill. He looked really fast this weekend, pretty consistent, fourth across the board in practice, qualified fourth. He should be there. Sam Mayer, I'm not getting to. Not really his driver rating on the intermediate tracks isn't really, in the same ballpark per se as some of these other plays up here. It's also his practice times were slow, relatively speaking. Again, Josh Berry's a little bit more of a tournament option. For me, I think Nemechek, Custer, and Allgaier Hill should be your focus, with Nemechek, Custer, and Hill for me being my main focus up in that range. Sheldon Creed, I'm going to go low. He announced that he's not coming back to RCR next year. When you think of Homestead, you think of running the wall. If anyone can do it in the Xfinity series, Sheldon Creed won't be afraid to try it out, rip the high line. Starts ninth. Practice times were about there. I just see him being kind of towards the tail end of the top 10 for most of the day. I don't know if that's going to do it at his price tag there. Chandler Smith starts 12th. Have him as medium interest. He has finished fourth in the most two recent intermediate tracks, which is encouraging. His practice and qualifying times kind of show him he's going to be running towards the back of the top 10. But again, just like the truck series, sometimes we get some crazy things happening in these Xfinity series slates. So, maybe he can take advantage of that and get a seventh place finish. Sammy Smith and Riley Herbst, more medium interest for me. Both of them are similar tournament plays. Really cool to see Riley Herbst win that race in kind of a dominating fashion a little bit, last week. Hard to imagine that's going to happen again. Sammy Smith was pretty quick in qualifying in practice for that regard. I don't really know if he can really move forward, especially past Nemechek, Custer, Allgaier, and Hill. Those are going to be some tough cars to try to get out front of. All right, let's see here. Oh, we got Dale Earnhardt Jr. Yeah, so we got Dale Earnhardt Jr. in the race. Got him as high interest. It's always fun to root for him. But from a DFS standpoint, putting the fan side out of it, strictly just looking at it from a DFS standpoint, looks like a good play. He's pretty fast in practice, had times inside the top 10, starts 23rd, gives you some place differential upside. I also really like his teammate, Brandon Jones there. Jones has actually finished inside the top 10 in the past 5 intermediate, style tracks. He's probably going to see a lot less ownership than Dale Earnhardt Jr. as well. He's a little bit cheaper. So I like both of those plays. I don't mind playing them both together. I would say Hemrick kind of falls into that category. I don't like him nearly as much as Earnhardt and Jones there. Still gives you some place differential upside. Kligerman kind of relatively in the same boat too. I'd much rather have Earnhardt and Jones. Kraus starts 20th. Likely will get trapped running in the teens, looking at his practice times, not getting the Moffitt, not really getting the Sieg. I also like Jeb Burton a lot. I think he's a good place differential play. Didn't run a lot of laps in practice, but we know this is a better car than 28th. Parker Retzlaff has kind of been hit or miss. Either has good speed, and we can see him, contending for top 12s, top 10s, or usually is finishing in the bottom teens or in the 20s. Everything I'm looking at this weekend suggests he's probably going to be towards the lower teens in the 20s just off practice time. So for those reasons, I'm not really too interested. It's also kind of crazy to see Ryan Newman, in this race that Dale Earnhardt Jr. is in at the same time. So I'm sure they'll get a lot of TV time. One of them probably more so than the other. But Ryan Newman starts 24th, he is in an MBM car. We have to remember that. It's $7,000 for MBM equipment. So for those reasons, I'm not interested. I do, however, think Ryan Newman would not sign up to run this race unless he knew that, hey, we have enough tires, or it's a decent car, it's a decent motor. So, I mean, starting 24th is not necessarily a slow car by any means. I just, for DFS purposes, I don't see him really contending for like a top 15 or anything like that. Asgrola starts 19th. Showed decent speed on the long run, which is encouraging, but otherwise probably going to be running in the teens. Joe Graff Jr., always difficult. He starts in the JGR 19. We know the car is good enough for a top 10, but Joe Graff is probably not going to be the guy to get it there. However, he does start 11th, so hey, maybe he can stay around 11th, 10th, 12th. Maybe that'll work out for him. So equipment alone, I think you should give Joe Graff Jr. some plays, plug him into a couple of your lines, but don't expect him to go out there and contend for the race win by any means. Jeremy Clements, kind of like Kaz, fine option. Don't really love him or hate him, but he's in the player pool. Connor Mosak, just not really as interested about other play, some of the other players that we mentioned around him. Anthony Alfredo starts pretty deep. Probably going to see a decent amount of ownership starting that deep. I don't mind going to him. He was just pretty slow in practice, which is a concern. And then kind of like the Truck Series slate, once you get to the bottom, I don't want to say it's hit or miss, but it's, pick who you want. Like, it's, some of these plays work out, some of them don't. It's hard to figure out who they are going to be. Not really interested in Sieg, not really interested in Pool. Weatherman does this every time. He has the skill. He always qualifies really well. It just usually is hard for him to, get those types of finishes, especially in the types of equipment that he's been in. So he's a little bit more of a tournament play. The safer options are going to be Earnhardt, Ellis, McLaughlin. Like, they start deep. They give you some place differential upside. They're not going to kill and hurt your line. Like, if Weatherman crashes and finishes 30th, that's going to suck, right? But if Earnhardt finishes 30th, it's not going to be good, but it's not going to kill your line, nearly as bad. Not really getting to Mason Massey, not getting to Mason Maggio. Josh Williams, kind of in the same boat as Weatherman. Skill-wise, equipment-wise, probably has a little bit of a better finishing potential, not as nearly as much place differential upside. So kind of have to get, try to find, the balance between the two there. Not really getting to Honeyman, Perkins, not really too interested in. Dawson Cram, so good speed, 25th in single lap practice speed, should be able to pick you up some spots. So probably be the lowest I'd go on the slate. But, once you get kind of down to the bottom of the range, it's usually not anyone I have super strong feelings towards. Like I said, Ellis, Earnhardt, and McLaughlin probably going to be your safest. Cram, Williams, Weatherman, a little bit riskier, but maybe a little bit more upside there. So, yeah, that'll do it for the doubleheader Homestead-Miami race. Like I said, we got trucks and Xfinity. We'll get to the Cup practice and qualifying. When that's wrapped up, we'll get a sheet created for that in a video. But yeah, we're quickly coming to an end here for the 2023 season. If you guys have made it this far with us, really appreciate it. It's kind of why we do it, is just all the comments that we get. And, it's fun, not only when we win, but it's fun seeing you guys, have good days as well. So enjoy your weekend, and catch you on the Cup video.